at all, just because you have simultaneously messages sent of all transactions, and it's open to everybody. You know exactly who's opened an LC on whom, what are the kind of LOUs issued, and it's every transaction is confirmed, and this thing before the next one goes on. So ultimately, if a letter of credit originally came because a buyer could not trust a seller or a seller could not trust a buyer, but here you have, through the blockchain technology, through the distributed ledger, through the verification and validation of every single transaction, that you can actually have a very solid, reliable system of execution of commercial transactions. So these contracts, which are smart contracts in the sense that you could put conditions in the contracts, and the contracts will then be effective or executed only if they fulfill all those conditions for the contracts. So there are these kind of possibilities as well to the, in the blockchain technology. It could even involve property deals. Like, I think Andhra Pradesh government has tried to use a blockchain application in property, records and transfers. And maybe then you see all the transactions are recorded, and subsequent mortgages on those are also clearly recorded, and these would be unalterable. And this is a way in which maybe the property markets can also get developed. Another way in which many people are talking about using this technology is this online identity management, which is really to have a shared database for certain things like, the KYC aspects or certain other documents which have to be commonly shared. So there are exciting possibilities to the application of blockchain. And I think currently, of course, it's not an enormous thing, but certainly most of it seems to be in banking and finance, and also government and public goods, and some 12% in insurance. And there are several other areas: healthcare, energy and utilities, manufacturing, technology services, media, entertainment, gaming, which seem to be also using blockchain. But this is, of course, based on some research out of Cambridge. But obviously, this is a technology one cannot afford to ignore. And it is something that everybody has to start getting familiar with. In India, the finance minister's budget speech said that we should explore the use of blockchain technology proactively for ushering in the digital economy. The IDRBT in the technology arm of Reserve Bank had led two POCs. One was on domestic trade finance letter of credit, and another one was enhanced information for payments by involving banks and technology firms like Infosys and IBM. Andhra Pradesh is one of the states, like I said, to introduce blockchains in land records. It's also setting up a blockchain center of excellence, and other countries seem to be also following the lead. So this is where we are in India. Looking ahead, widespread use of cryptocurrency as money, as currency, does not seem to be likely due to its failure as store of value or means of exchange, and its volatility, its inability to scale, and the concerns on money laundering and investor protection issues. But maybe if it is something that can be improved upon, like Lagarde said, if maybe you are able to eliminate. And it's also a way in which central banks can perhaps look to improve their own currency management systems, make it less prone to this kind of, the safety, counterfeiting aspects. And it could be a technology, like I said, could be used for centralized systems in payments and settlements and other low and safe, low-cost commercial transactions. The central bank digital currency is being examined, but no country has really brought it. But I understand in Australia, the post-settlement of trades in the securities markets have adopted a blockchain technology. The vigilance and the has to be obviously continuously there, and that has been the one message which is coming out of the G20, the FSB. It's something that will have to be continuously monitored and watched to see what are the technology changes that are happening, and whether that can lead to the removal of its deficiencies and improve it for various purposes. So that's my presentation, and I just wanted to make a disclaimer on the cartoons, because it's being taken from Google. I don't want any IPR issues. So, well.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We have time for questions? Okay. May I just ask for a show of hands of the people who are going to ask questions? So there are actually a reasonable number. Can we partition this into two parts? One, people who just want to ask for a clarification, in the sense that they haven't understood some parts of the presentation because it's a new thing. And let's have a few of them first. After that, we can have questions that analytically disagree with anything that's said. So, pure clarifications. Sudipto.
Thanks very much. Wonderful presentation. I'm completely ignorant about how this works. I just want to know, if I were to sort of want to engage in transaction in Bitcoins, how do I get into it? I mean, the first transaction would have to be actually using real money to presumably buy some rights. I just want to know how that works.
Yeah, you'll have to go to an outlet like my friend who came to my house, because today you can't go to a recognized exchange house which is getting a facility from a bank. So transferring money which was possible till February this year, you could transfer money from your bank account to one of these service providers, and you could buy Bitcoins, because it was being sold like a commodity, like a virtual commodity for a value. So, and you were holding that Bitcoin account. And that's exactly that Shippy chap, my neighbor in the plane, said that is what he had acquired. The value went up, and now he doesn't know how to get out, because there's links between the exchange between. So if you want to do it, you'll have to probably go to some other part of the world and try and open a Bitcoin account by transferring some money. Today in India, I think to transfer from your bank account to, maybe one can do it from currency to Bitcoin, I don't know, frankly.
Okay, yes, that's the lady there.
Usha, very good stock, very interesting. But how do you mine? I haven't understood this mining.
I just thought I'll intrigue you. Actually, this word mining, it's, as soon as a transaction takes place, anybody who is a part of that protocol and network can validate that transaction by they have their own CPUs, and they can they know the algorithm, so they can do it. And for that, they get paid in Bitcoins. And that new Bitcoins get created. So you can create also, because in certain ways, very restricted ways. You can't just create money like central banks create money, but this is called mining.
I think I'm going to go right to the back. Yeah. They're giving you a mic, just hold on.
How do the cryptocurrencies issuers, they gain by issuing this, being in the business? Do they charge commission, or how do they?
No, actually, in a way, it all started by people who didn't believe in any authority. So they said, we will have a mutual understanding and we'll build it on our trust. We will regulate it, we will own it. It's a community. And we will have a protocol for it, and then we'll start transacting in it. So the miners, and the gain is made by, I think, the first movers, because those who came in and got these cryptos, who were the first people who started working with the algorithm. Obviously, when more and more people came in, then the supply doesn't really go up, the way the demand does. And then you can encash out and get your gain. So it's all capital gains. The people who get out of the crypto, they make the gains. And they acquired cryptos because they may have mined or they may have done, they got into it earlier. Or when the market went up, and of course when the market went down, they also lost. So the gains and losses are mostly coming out of the value going up or down.
Yes. Mahendrapal, may I speak, please?
Go ahead.
Yes, Mahendrapal from Delhi University. Madam, when you say that this money, as per the definition of money, this money has no store value and unit of account, it's fine. Do you think the central bank loses its control on money supply when it is prevalent in the country?
Absolutely. I mean, if it is going to take the part of currency, which it doesn't seem to be happening, the central bank does not exist. You see, this currency is no central bank's liability, no state, it's not state-backed at all. Visualize it like gold. Gold is a commodity. Visualize it like that. But here there is no, it's a commodity which is Bitcoin. You're giving it a scarcity value by the way you're controlling the supply of it. And supply cannot be controlled except through more and more transactions coming in. So the more and more people trust it and come in for whatever reason, that is what is going to give it value. So for a central bank, if you were a central bank governor in a country where people are just going to not trust your currency and are going to use this for most of their day-to-day transactions, then you have lost it. In any case, they are going there because you had lost it. You were not in control.
That means it destabilizes the nation.
Pardon?
This means this system destabilizes this economic system of any nation.
It depends on how much is going to be the usage. Like I said, currently, the usage is not at all significant when you compare it to the usage of other forms of currency or payment system. But it has become very attractive for jurisdictions where there has been uncertainty about the banking system, about the central banks, about the governments, and lack of trust in the currency.
Can I ask a question? Chairman's prerogative, reflecting my ignorance really. I mean, who gets the seigniorage from the creation of Bitcoin?
There's no seigniorage. There's no seigniorage.
Can't be
It's
a currency if
every
there's no
Bitcoin is a
seigniorage.
transaction. It's a transaction and only capital gains and losses.
I need to think about that. Yes.
Clarification. You made 3 points about it's a low cost, highly volatile, and the transactions are frequent. As far as I remember, the costs are actually low only if you ignore energy cost. Number 2, the frequency of transaction they can handle is only about dozen per second, while something like PayPal, MasterCard, we are talking about hundreds of millions per second. Thirdly, the volatility is much more than, let's say, gold or any other commodity. So could you give us, have things changed dramatically?
No. This is not change. What you're saying is absolutely right.
Then how can it be a store? Can it be
That's why I said it's not proved itself as a store of value.
So it's out of.
It's not proved itself as a store of value. It became attractive because people saw quick gains to be made out of investing in it.
No, but it cannot even be a medium of exchange.
No, it has not been proved to be a medium of exchange.
Yes.
Ma'am, 50 years ago, when computers came, they said the world will not need more than 5 computers. Right? So then the internet came and we didn't know what to expect, and today everybody is using smartphones. Nobody could anticipate that. The blockchain technology is the internet what it was in 1980s. That's how we need to look at blockchain technology as such. Okay. Now, coming to the currency part, 2008, we had a big financial fiasco. Can you visualize something 10 times bigger happening in the next 2 years and people losing trust in the dollar, the dollar becoming useless currency, and then something on the lines of trusted currency based on blockchain takes shape.
Would you like to attempt an answer?
Pass if you think.
No. I think what you're saying is absolutely right. It is like what we had, we never imagined the internet would really bring the kind of changes. We never imagined the mobile would bring about the transformation it has. We never imagined, the kind of changes that have happened. And I think the reason why I feel that we all need to give total attention to blockchain technology, because I think it does have the potential. It's still slow, it still has to be scalable. All those issues are there. But I think technology will be able to overcome those issues. But visualizing, and this morning we were talking, Gemini, you were chairing a session where you talked about an international reserve currency other than the US dollar, or something that, I can't visualize a currency run by a protocol of anonymous node owners actually creating a system where countries would use their keep their international reserves in those currencies. No.
May I just add to this, what she said?
I think you've got a lot of questions, so let me distribute them. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am. Ma'am, as you said that India is getting changes very fast, and I want to know that I was trading in Bitcoins from last 4 years. So I got to know that there are a lot of local exchanges over there, foreign exchanges, which can give you the amount of cash, and you can just transfer the BTC to them, and you can get the cash from them anywhere, any places where you go, any country. So ma'am, this symbolizes that there is a lot of billions of dollars in a snap can be in your phone, and you can travel around the world. And I want to know that, ma'am, how the government is working on it, to not get the black amount into the Bitcoins, and getting over it, how the government is working on it.
I have no idea. But what you're saying is right. It surprised me when with this gentleman, and this, mind you, was 2011. Bitcoin started in 2009. And he actually went and, did all the exchanges. And these exchanges, which are quite a few, are in Gujarat, these which were converting the... I'm sure there are. Like you say, you've traded 4 years, so...
Wait for a mic.
Sorry. I've not been following cryptocurrencies very carefully, very studiously. But you mentioned Gujarat a few times, and in fact there's been a big scam in Gujarat as well, where some BJP leaders apparently were found using bitcoins to launder money. And internationally also there have been at least 2 big scams. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on the potential for scamming and fraud.
That's exactly what my presentation was about. This lends itself very easily to the kind of money laundering and illegal activities.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
how do you, the question really is then how do you, how does the global organizations deal with, using these currencies for money laundering?
So I think the hidden question in my comment was, how much do you think is hype, and how much, just based on your judgment at the moment?
No, I have no idea, but I think there is a potential, and it's clearly established that it's happening. Money laundering and CFT is happening using bitcoins through cryptocurrencies. But the question really, the challenge is how to, deal with it, how to prevent it, because that's what you're doing in the formal financial system. Now, this is a system outside your formal financial system, so how do you do it? And that's where one would have to look at the exchanges and see, even globally, people didn't want to ban it immediately. You've seen the number of jurisdictions where it's legal. So, because nobody wants to curtail an activity which is coming up, but I think the challenge before the regulators is really how to deal with it as from the AML and the CFT point of view.
Any question there? I'll come to you.
Yeah, Aman Agarwal from Indian Institute of Finance. We have actually been working on it for the last 4 or 5 years, and we propose two things because it defines the asset class, what an asset is supposed to have. The cryptocurrencies like blockchains are defining that. It doesn't have something that backs it, which you've also outlined. We've been proposing that the central banks should give it the sovereignty to come forward with whether it is CBDC or whatever form, and introduce an M5 as a measure, which will actually introduce the digital framework into. Do you think that could come in due course? That's what we've been proposing for the last 1.5 year guidance.
Like I said, if it is coming as a bank, through a bank, then it's something like bank money only, like M3 only. So if it's M0, and M0 is, the currency is going to be held by everybody, and, you can just get into it and get out of it. That, to my mind, is not something that's, likely to happen. But countries which are looking at central bank digital currency, Canada and some other countries of that kind, I think would be looking at what is called a permissioned system, and probably just eliminating the physical aspect of currency. But a country like India, we really can't visualize that, already. Even today, we know the extent of cash that is used in the economy, and cash is still king. Can we replace this cash with a kind of a digital currency, when you may not even have connectivity and you don't have smartphones, and it all seems very, very far-thinking, from that angle.
Yeah, please.
He is the Venezuelan.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, I'm the ambassador of Venezuela. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. I would like to take part basically as provide some information of experience that we are going through. And in that sense, certainly you, dear Usha Torat, and several of the speakers here have mentioned value as a category of interest here. Value, also volatility, trust. That's why the government of Venezuela has decided to officially launch the cryptocurrency called Petro, with a very particular characteristic, which is that the Petro is a currency, a cryptocurrency, supported by real value in terms of oil, gold, diamonds, iron, aluminium, and the highest strategic metal today, which is coltan, which in every mobile, in every high-tech communication satellite instrument is there. And so it has been launched. Just by coincidence today, we're coming from Amity University. We were invited there by a group of experts that today and tomorrow they are having this wonderful event on blockchain and cybersecurity and all this. It's incredible. I mean, something like 20 experts. And one of them has a book in Amazon, which is a bestseller. So they were all asking Venezuela, they were asking us about our experiences. And on the 29th of this month in October, there will be a World Congress of miners and cryptocurrencies in Venezuela. And the beauty of this, what's happening in Venezuela, is that this is, in fact, the first time, the first experience of a government, and I would like it to make, I want to make sure that my message is that I am simply talking about our experience. This has nothing to do with the desire of the trade of oil, for example, with India, be paid in other currency, like a petrol. But it is happening. It's happening everywhere around the world. It's happening here. It's happening in different places. And in Venezuela, the experience is that the cryptocurrency, Petro, is basically secured with the largest oil reserve of oil in the world, the third largest reserve of gold, a very large reserve of diamond, the second largest coltan reserve in the world, and the basket of these commodities is what gives the petrol its value. This is, of course, now you can find any one of you at the moment in your mobile. Right now, you can enter in your mobile the web page, the home page of the Petro, and you will be able in 2.5 weeks' time to actually register and get an electronic wallet and buy petros. And with those petros, you will be able to change it, you will be able to purchase services and products, you will be able to do certain things. Why did Venezuela get into this? Because we are being financially blocked. Those were the first words you used at the beginning. We are being financially blocked, commercially blocked. We cannot use dollars. We cannot even get the dollars from the oil we sell. And this is, of course, very illegal, internationally speaking. And there is a very big country actually imposing this kind of sanctions, which are not sanctions. They simply are ways of attacking, sending aggressions against an economy to cripple it and to make a state unable to. So in Venezuela, what's happening? We cannot buy food or medicines. Therefore, the very good narrative of humanitarian crisis, which doesn't exist, is there. So the country must be intervened. So we produced it. There are a lot of people interested about it in the world. There is already a very big pre-sale. It started in the month of March, and now there are thousands and thousands and thousands of millions of euros, dollars, yuans, etc., being waiting for the 1st of November to buy petros. This is our experience, and we are glad to say that a lot of people in England and people also linked to the government through different agencies have approached to ask about it. Thank you very much.
That's very, very interesting, actually. Thank you for that intervention. Next question. Rajat, how much time do you want to go on?
I think this is quite interesting, so we can go on for another 10 minutes.
Okay, fine. So, yes, please.
I have kind of two questions. One is, if we think about India, then we are, so the comment basically about why Gujarat had so many instances. So one is like, there is a group of people who might be interested in evading taxes. And so cryptocurrency becomes one of the methods or one of the tools in their portfolio for evading taxes. So I guess what determines the relative attractiveness of, let's say, creating a Benami account within the banking system versus putting my money in Bitcoin. So how the legal institutions are going to work and that affect the attractiveness of these two. If you have any thoughts on that. And the second one is basically just having, as I said, it started as not to have trust in the state or that kind of system. And so I'm basically, when I buy Bitcoin, I am buying access to a distributed ledger system, which is going to allow me to, hopefully, to store some value and hide it away from the state and maybe be able to launder it somewhere else to do that. So the point is that it may not be actually just a bubble. There is an underlying value because I'm buying access to a technology which allows me to hide my wealth from the state if I decide to.
Yes, there is a combination of the two, because there have been very clear periods when the prices, the way they rose, were not clearly linked to this. Or maybe then there is more law evasion which is happening during that time. Like there's various reasons why it's going for this kind of thing. So one is not having trust in the state and avoiding taxes, two different things. There are some people philosophically who feel that, central banks and states should not exist.
Ma'am, the original attractiveness of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies was very secure. It was very safe. But in the last 8 months, 2 exchanges have been hacked, and Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies have been stolen, and they have been able to place them in the marketplace, and it cannot be retrieved. So the original USP has gone, that it cannot be hacked. The first USP was it was unique and of a certain minimum supply of 20 million or something. That went off after several series of crypto and became cryptocurrency. That you had several series of Bitcoins coming up with different names, and the reliability was then of the exchange. And when exchanges started getting hacked, then the security also has disappeared. So it becomes somewhat similar to gold or silver, as you mentioned, that it's an asset class, and it is as safe or as unsafe as. So why is there so much angst about it or fear about it in the official circles? There will be certain attractiveness, just as gold and silver have some thing, but there's also, it's not finite, it will not be infinite now. It will be finite because it can be hacked and it can be stolen. So it won't get, it will not replace the current monetary systems.
I agree with you. But interestingly, when you look at it as an asset class, that was the reason why for some time in India, it was not clear whether SEBI would regulate it or RBI.
I have one question. Whenever this issue comes up, and that's been evident in today's discussion, there's always this reference of you can privately engage in all kinds of activity without the state snooping. Now, what is to stop, let's say, the tax department from entering the Bitcoin chain by just buying a few Bitcoins? Because from what you describe, whoever's in the network can trace everything. So that would be quite sensible, for all the security agencies to pick up a little bit of Bitcoin so that they're right there. Is that correct?
It's interesting. There is a combination of transparency and anonymity. The holder is anonymous, the transactions are transparent. Unless you get an algorithm to be able to look at the pattern of transactions, to be able to trace it and locate the owner.
Okay, I need to think about this a little more. Yes.
I was wondering the context in which this Bitcoin and this currencies has emerged, that exactly after the central bank balance sheets were expanded, after global financial crisis, you have the emergence of the currency. So is it that the wealthy groups found that there should be some other option? That is, there should be a currency to see to it that their old inflation targeting thing works. That is, you should have a restraint. There's a restriction on the supply. So logically, is that?
No, I don't think so at all, because I think there were these group of people who were trying to do it even before that. 1988 itself, something crypto had started. So it wasn't till 2009. So I don't think this is a coincidence in my view.
One question, it's really as much to His Excellency, the ambassador from Venezuela. Thank you for the intervention. I just want to ask a question to make sure that I understood what you said. Because I think what you said is that Venezuela has introduced a new asset called a petro, which is sort of like an SDR, which consists of so many ounces of gold and so many ounces of this and so on and so on. Now, does that mean that Venezuela is actually issuing petros? So you're getting the seigniorage from whatever you issue, and what is issued is backed by real commodities. of course, I mean, what it really means is that you're, in some sense, the ability to actually honor this is, in effect, the exporting you do of these commodities, right? So how does it give you an advantage?
It's not linked to the dollar.
Hmm?
It's not linked to the dollar.
Yeah, not linked to the dollar is fine. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Hello, yes. You have, as a non-expert on this, you have become an expert in a few minutes. That's basically it. Can anybody here in this room tell me what is the value of a dollar? Where is the value of the dollar? We all know that there is no gold behind a dollar. And everybody at the moment is saying what is going to happen in the next few years. Nobody knows. And there are a lot of people also creating some bad feelings about it. But that's something I just wanted to place us in this value topic. So yes, Venezuela has issued. Venezuela, in the largest reserve of oil, which is located in the central south part of Venezuela, the government has issued 5,000 barrels of oil that has been certified, and the certificate from this oil, plus the certificate from the gold of Venezuela, which has already been certified as the third largest reserve, proved and certified internationally, plus the coltan and so on. So there is now a technology that is being created to sum up and create the basket of commodities which back the petrol currency. That's it. Yes, indeed. Thank you. So you are trading with something of an asset. You have an asset in your hand there. Yes.
I thought there was
to give it.
There was a lady who asked a question there, so let's get some gender balance maintained, right? Yeah, in the corner, right next to the sliding partition.
You refer to the, as far as blockchain is concerned, you refer to the use in cross-border payments. Do you think that there is a possibility of a regulatory arbitrage in this case, when it is being used frequently by countries, and how does one, in fact, if there is, how does one get over that?
What kind of a regulatory arbitrage? Unless it has got something to do with not declaring it. But supposing you make it all open. I mean, I'm just giving the Philippine example. The governor of Philippines has spoken about it, and they say that we feel that it is helping our people better. Everything is known. The remitter is known, the recipient is known, and how much is coming. But they are just using it as a method of transfer of funds, which is much more at lower cost and value. So there are different ways different countries are looking at it. So that's what's so interesting. That different jurisdictions, some jurisdictions like His Excellency said, are looking at it as a way to get over the sanctions.
Right at the back. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, please.
My question is, can Iran learn something from?
I think they're already looking at it.
What you're saying is that if we have more unilateral interventions in the system, there'll be responses of this kind, which will beat that. So you're probably correct. You want to ask a question? Yes, please.
Actually, in the presentation, you showed a map of the world where many countries like USA, Canada, Europe, they were shown in green, who have recognized cryptocurrency, digital currency, with crypto, bitcoins. Australia also. So, and there were 4 or 5 categories of countries because there were 4 or 5 colors. So I wanted to know the intermediary countries who are between the recognized and not recognized category. So what do they mean? Pink and blue and yellow.
See, the extreme categories, totally it's prohibited. The red ones. The red ones were where it is not allowed at all, even as an activity.
India
India is coming in that yellow category according to this map. So actually, if is there a law which says that people are describing it as a commodity and you're exchanging against that? Is that a law, legal activity? Buying gold or selling gold, say. You can bring them under some law, but that by itself is not an illegal activity. But what you've done what you've made illegal is that first you're saying it's not legal tender. Second, you're saying that it's you cannot convert it from a bank account into that. So all the RBI regulated entities have been prevented from giving any kind of facility for conversion and exchange. So it's a little bit intermediate.
Okay. If I am not mistaken,
and SEBI has not banned it as an asset class.
But if I am not mistaken, the Middle Eastern countries were also shown as green, so they
like I said, I don't think I'm the expert here, and maybe some more, you'll have to see and in country by country. But I did try and have a look at each country, the way they are dealing with it, and so I got out as much as I've shown you.
And secondly, I wanted to say
I think we're coming to the end of the session. Sorry.
I just wanted to say that it is beyond the control or regulation of central banks or the government. So, because it's an individual thing, like as a tech-savvy person, one takes an individual risk. So, because it's a peer-to-peer network activity. So, it is, going forward, this question may become redundant in a couple of years' time that governments or central banks, they will not come in the picture. Or this discussion will automatically become redundant or obsolete. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, you mentioned SEBI. My guess is they're probably trying to think up, is this a P note or not? Because from what you say, you can't tell who's doing what. So as soon as they work that out, I think they'll probably ban it. Anyway, Usha, thank you very much. Greatly enlightened me, and I think most of the others. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. So we're done with today's sessions and we proceed for cocktail followed by dinner. Thank you. Yeah, so tomorrow we have the first session, which is on financing infrastructure for sustainable development. And we'll begin at 9:30. Registration starts at 9:15 a.m. Thank you.